Hello, everybody. Welcome to What Culture Film is a name for this podcast that we occasionally do. I'm your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Josh Brown.
Hello.
And Sir Gareth,
Hello.
who's dropped by because he's got all sorts of opinions he can't wait to unleash on the world. And we're just going to sort of dissect Disney Plus, the state that it's in, and the fact that it is out in America, and all of us in the UK are just crying because we can't get access to
Genuinely, I can't go on Twitter, Scott, because I either see spoilers for The Mandalorian or I just see people watching every episode of The Simpsons ever, and I'm just intensely jealous, to be honest.
It's not good. Gareth, where have you come down on the release of it?
To be honest, I'm in the small kind of minority of people who are going to have to wait. I'm going to try and hold off Twitter as best as I can and just try and I don't know, bury my head in the sand and hope that something...
You're not tempted?
Don't tempt me.
By the dark side?
Yeah, by the dark side, definitely. But I don't know. I mean, I'm a person who likes to kind of wait until everything's come out and just binge it as a full set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find it very hard to wait. I'm just a typical millennial, right?
Okay.
So I sort of feel, and I just don't like having to wait week after week.
We could talk about this specifically, but you're also going to wait.
Yeah, see, I'm the exact same. I think it looks lush, and like the way Jon Favreau's created this sort of world. It's an interesting way to do Star Wars. Like a Star Wars TV show on this scale is ridiculous, and I am unbelievably tempted you two to just acquire it somehow and watch it. But no, I'm going to try to stick out because I don't like watching things week by week anyway. I think it's an interesting decision for Disney to not take the Netflix binge model and just release everything at once.
I mean, like, we can talk about The Mandalorian. I mean, like, overall, the service itself we're still waiting on. But in terms of, like, because in terms of The Mandalorian, I may or may not have acquired it through, means. And it's really good. It's a really good, like, original show. But that staggered release in the UK. We're not getting it until March. So it's like, that's a long time to stay off social media to try and avoid different, like, details that are about the service. I think that, for me, is a massive mistake. And I think, I get why they've done it. I get all the licensing rights. I get that they have a whole bunch of films that are still on Netflix in terms of, like, the specific properties that they want to get back. But I still think it's a massive mistake.
Well, I'm interested to see what Gareth thinks about this because where I'm at the moment is that they could have released a limited version of Disney Plus. They could have had The Mandalorian on the original content. But for me, you only get to make a first impression once. And we've got so many different streaming services at the minute. I mainline Amazon Prime and Netflix at the moment. So it takes a lot to convince someone to purchase another thing that they have to add to their monthly bills every single month. And I think that Disney obviously want to grab the market. And to make the best first impression, you need everything. Sure, they could have had The Mandalorian, got Star Wars fans in. But if you can't have The Simpsons, if you can't have all the great movies, if you can't have everything, then there might be people.
The Marvel films.
Yeah, the Marvel. Yeah, you might get people jumping in, trying it now, thinking that's all right, canceling their subscription, and then when the main thing comes along next year, might not be interested.
It does make me wonder in terms of like what the average consumer, like the optics of Disney Plus overall, like is the average person on the street who is subscribed to a Netflix, a Prime, or whatever, are they still looking at it going? Are they even aware that it's out in America and it's this big deal? Because for me, it's starting to bleed over.
I feel like the kind of casual audience is aware because just myself today, I was on my way down in a taxi and I was having a chat with my taxi driver about it, and they were well aware that they had to wait.
That's a good metric for the
it is the average
world.
Joe just to drive me down in a taxi, and he was well aware, and he was frustrated, but on the same side of that, he was anticipating it.
Right.
There was this word of mouth, this buzz. So straight away, I know for a fact that this guy, when it comes around to March, he's going to be putting his money down for that subscription. He's going to be straight in there because he's heard all the buzz coming out from America, all the buzz coming out from The Mandalorian. He's thinking, I'm all over.
I wonder because it's such a considered like roll of the dice kind of thing. Because I guess like they would have had so many meetings about when do we roll this out, what region do we go to first, how do we sort of secure these different licenses and rights and everything. And I guess in the end, it could totally work in their favor where they get it. Because if you guys are both going to wait, then that anticipation is only going to build over time.
That's it. And I think because we might lose sight of it because we're all bad nerds. So we're so excited for the original content, obviously. But I think people in general, they love rewatching stuff that, and me included, we love rewatching stuff that we love. We love rewatching The Simpsons. We love rewatching The Office. We love rewatching Friends. There was a huge bidding war earlier this year between Netflix and Warner Brothers about who owned the streaming rights to Friends, and it went up to like $100 million. Yeah. And that's because ultimately, although all this new stuff is fancy and it'll get people in, what people also want is that comfort of, oh my God, every single Simpsons episode is on there, and that is going to see me through. I'm going to watch and rewatch those and have lovely lovely Sunday afternoons tucked up in bed, just, ignoring the horrors of the world and watching the show.
Yeah.
So while obviously the original content is part of it, you do need that base of established content that currently they don't have the licensing rights
that's
issues
another
to.
thing, is that split between like new projects and established stuff. Because my Netflix subscription now is a Friends subscription. Like that's kind of why I have it. And like in terms of one new thing that they're launching out the gate with, it is just the Mandalorian. Like everything else that's coming in terms of the Marvel spin-off stuff and the other Star Wars stuff.
I think, what is it, Hawkeye? Not Hawkeye. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's February, I think.
They're all like they're all 2020, 2021. Like it's a while. And I guess that's another like open question: is how much do you think they can just survive on the established Disney stuff and then bring the new stuff, or like that idea of buying into a new service, a new streaming service? Do you expect a certain amount of new stuff?
Well, I think now
it is Disney.
Yeah, it is Disney, but you just seen how many eggs they put into the Mandalorian, really, to have it carry that weight of original content until February. I'm not sure if that is
it's a while, yeah.
Coming out, but yeah, that's a lot to put on it. But like you said, Disney has got such a back catalogue. We're already talking about Pinocchio. Like, what's stopping you going out to Tesco and buying a DVD of Pinocchio? Nothing. But
True.
The fact that it's going to be on this service, everything's going to be so accessible, and from the sounds of things, it's going to be a little bit cheaper than what Netflix is, isn't it?
Yes, I wrote down some price and stuff. These are all American prices because we have more listeners and viewers in America. Netflix is $11, Amazon Prime is $9, HBO Go is $15, and then Disney undercuts the lot of them at $7.
Take my money.
Which is like an insane amount of stuff for the money that they're asking, which like could totally just lead to a whole bunch of impulse buys and blind faith purchases and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's why you need that good first impression, because people will just sort of get it out of curiosity, and because it's cheap, they might just let it roll over, but they won't if you don't have all of the content in the world to start with.
Do you think that's why they've started off with such a kind of minimalistic base of content? Because they might start increasing the price when they start adding more content?
I think so.
Maybe.
These original shows that they're making, The Mandalorian, all the Marvel ones, they are premium sort of projects.
The budget on The Mandalorian is insane.
That's it. The budget on these projects are ridiculous. And even though Disney has all the money in the world, it's still a hefty chunk of change. So I can't imagine that this is going to be the pricing model for, maybe 1 year, maybe it'll stay the same, but it's definitely going up.
You get that first magazine when you were like building like a car in the old days. You get the first big chunk of it for free, and then the price goes back up.
I've got like an original car that is just a chassis and has been for like 30 years, but not to worry. The one thing that Josh, you mentioned before we came in is that some stuff that they've gone back to, and I'll tell Gareth, you don't know what McClunky is yet.
I don't. I'm a McClunky, but that sounded better.
You're not aware of the latest thing in the Star Wars fandom. Well, yeah, you're McClunkless. But a couple of things have stood out in terms of people analysing shows that are on the service. First up is The Simpsons. Apparently that's been sort of stretched to fit a widescreen, and they've lost the borders on the side because those original shows were made in 4:3. Right. So that sucks and physically hurts. But Josh, you're the person who noticed this.
Got a bone to pick with this because I saw it on Twitter last night, and it actually made me glad that Disney Plus isn't available, because I would have been so fuming had I put on The Simpsons and noticed this. I don't know. Executives seem so scared about putting out their shows that people love in their original format. We've seen it with the likes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When that came to Blu-ray, it was a terrible transfer. It did the pan and scan thing where it zoomed in and got rid of the black boxes, but then you miss a lot of detail. There's a great example that was going around on Twitter in regards to The Simpsons, where a sight gag about a Duff Beer company, where it was like the Duff Beer company, it's like they're different brands, but the joke is that it all comes from the same pipe, and it's all essentially the same. But because it's been sort of zoomed in and cropped, you miss that entirely. So there are going to be people presumably watching The Simpsons through this service, because that's where Disney want to house it, that are going to be watching it for the first time, the next generation or whatever, and they're going to get an inferior version of these episodes.
Because not only like they could have just zoomed it, but like they could have just zoomed it in. I thought they would just stretch to fit, but the fact that they've like zoomed and then cut it means that it fundamentally alters the framing and everything. That's another mistake.
Should have somebody sat in a room going,
this might not work.
Yeah,
this might be a bit weird.
Who's getting paid for that?
It's a bit strange. I think the other thing is the massive Star Wars thing, which is currently unfolding in regards to you can watch all the Star Wars movies on Disney Plus. Yes. A New Hope, classic scene, hand shot first with Greedo.
Have they got all the films? Sorry, have they got all the films already on the Disney?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't gone back to my wretched hive of scum and villainy sources to double check. But the latest thing with the Han Solo scene, obviously historically altered scene, George Lucas multiple times, has been altered again, just to sort of just to ruin your day. So now there's a whole thing where apparently Lucas greenlit this back in 2012 before Disney acquired the movies. Doesn't make any sense because why did it sit around for 6 years, 7 years? But whatever. Now when Han Solo, they have that altercation, Han Solo goes to shoot him. Greedo now says McClunky out of nowhere, and then they both shoot at the same time, and then Greedo dies. So it's 2007 all over again.
It's a thing. George Lucas is back tampering, even though he doesn't even own the things anymore. He somehow, we said in the news this morning, Scott, about how he's continuing to play pranks on the Star Wars audience from essentially beyond the grave. He's haunting Star
He's just
Wars.
the Force ghost
like a
He's the emperor.
He's the emperor.
Doing his evil laugh in the distance. But I think as a wider thing, what do we sort of think about that idea of taking things that you should know what you're getting. You should know that you're getting The Simpsons. You should know that you're getting A New Hope or whatever. That assumption that they can just tweak things in an online service, they can just tweak it quite instantly. Where do you come down on the idea of either creators going back to stuff or just tweaks being made to make it work for a new streaming service?
Do you not feel like it corrupts the experience going forward? Because we've got our own point of view from Star Wars, Simpsons, Friends, things like this, that we've been raised on a certain format of that show. And this next generation now, like you said, who are being introduced to it for the first time, are getting this weird skewed perspective. And then, this is the bit that's kind of destroying my brain right now. They could prefer this and enjoy this, and then have this weird dispute where it's like, our version's better than yours. I mean, it's just
like new Simpsons fans.
It's an unnecessary civil war that started.
Like you said, Gareth, there are people in big executive offices getting paid lots and lots of money to make the decision to not release, for instance, The Simpsons in its original format and crop it. And I do think that is backed up in a way by some of the audience. For anecdotally, my grandmother does that for every single film or TV show. If it has any black boxes, she zooms in. And I love her. I love her to bits, but she's so wrong. And that just alters the experience massively. And
is
like
she not
you
missing
said,
stuff?
She is missing stuff, Scott. Good. She doesn't matter because she
enjoys seeing people's chins.
Yeah,
the murderer is over there. And it's like, what?
She's lovely. She's old. She needs to see everything, But
Let's rewind that bit. Go.
Zoom into a different part of the screen. Okay, it was down there.
Twice.
But the issue is, like you said, if it's not done with the creator's consent, or if it's not done properly in the case of The Simpsons, there is a way to remaster The Simpsons, I assume, and make it fit that format way more naturally in a way that preserves the original intention. But this just kind of seems a bit slapdash and done purely to avoid the ire of people who might not remember that The Simpsons wasn't made for flat screen, 4K TVs.
And it's just, it reminds me of when they put, old video games on services like Xbox Live or whatever, and it's like, but you retain the black borders, and it's an initial surprise being like, oh yeah, screen resolutions and sizes have changed, but for me, you just go with it. It's an initial
take
thing.
Anything away from the game.
Yeah, and then you just kind of go with it, and it's fine. Like I said, in terms of dice rolls, I guess they would have had another massive discussion on this, and then at some point settled on the idea of zooming in. A wider thing I was going to talk about is just that idea that we're embarking on this sort of future of streaming services, and there's going to be so much competition between Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, and now Disney, and X number of other services that are coming around. I guess to open it up, where are you guys on that idea of content being distributed by licensees, and that idea that we're about to get into this big license war of where things go?
It's the equivalent, really, of what's happening in cinema in a way, isn't it? Because obviously now you've always had Warner Brothers, Disney, and you've had all these studios, and you kind of just choose based on what film you want to watch. Whereas now, you're kind of skipping out that middleman of going to a cinema. You're still going to be paying that money, but this time you're paying for your choice of...
Like The Irishman coming straight to Netflix or something.
That's going to lure somebody to Netflix. Not necessarily because they go, oh, I'm Netflix through and through. Die Hard, Netflix, Disney. They're going to go, I want to watch The Irishman, so I'm going to have Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's... I kind of...
I think it's the cost side of it to throw in as well. I think is weird because it's like I think the cost of all these services combined is going to sneak up on a lot of people in terms of you're dropping almost sort of £10 on each one. That's £50 out your pocket each month or whatever it is, depending on how many that you subscribe to.
My issue is with the way Disney has done it. They've got a great offering here, but the way they've sort of limited their content on other platforms is so very frustrating to me, because then they can hike the price up once they've got them all. Because say Amazon Prime, for instance, I use that for the original content and the stuff I can stream free, but I primarily use it to rent new movies. You can rent them for like a couple of quid, you can buy them outright. But Disney movies on the service are always so expensive. They rarely have an option to rent films. I remember when Endgame came out, and you couldn't rent any of the major Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. You had to buy them outright for about £13, where I could just get a Blu-ray. So when they do that, and then they use that technique to sort of funnel people into their own streaming services. I just think it's a bit sort of.
gonna be a big
I don't
monopoly
like
on
it.
everything.
Yeah, it's like a big monopoly on everything. It forces you to choose when the whole point of streaming services in the first place should be about, freedom of choice. It shouldn't be about like limiting things off. It should be about accessibility. It should be about having your content be delivered to the most amount of people possible. And that is kind of the case, but it's done in this sort of almost predatory way where it's either you come to our service or you don't get our content. Yeah, you with us or against us.
And it's like already they're out there saying that like, obviously the new MCU shorts and movies and stuff, like they're all going to be canon. They're all going to be as part of the MCU. So it's like, if you're a Marvel fan, if you're an MCU fan, this is the streaming service that you're going to go with.
Come out and said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you got to keep on top of everything. You got to buy that as well as the movie.
Exactly, and it's like even that as another extension to the conversation is like that idea of like you're a fan of a certain property then being latched onto a streaming service. I guess it's like where do you come down on that as well? Because even that is like maintaining a fandom means putting more money into it.
I think we saw that even when Marvel and Kevin Feige announced Phase 4. That essentially it's a shorter phase, and it seems almost entirely created to push Disney Plus. It's saying, look, you love this universe, you love these movies. These are going to be an integral part of that. They're going to be an integral part of the next phase. So if you don't want to miss it, pay the money, get Disney Plus.
I mean, I think in terms of like as a body of content, the stuff that they're offering, like it is ludicrous when you saw, because they released that big 3-hour YouTube video where it was like, here's literally everything coming to Disney Plus, and you can just sit and watch like every single show for the last like however many X years that it is. But I think that is going to turn a lot of heads. I just think that there are potential problems with the pricing structure of streaming services overall and the amount of streaming services that are all going to be coming at once, and then having to sort of pick between them. Another thing that I've got written down is just that the pivot between like Netflix and Prime have sort of gone into their own original stuff. You got Netflix originals, Prime originals. Most of those Netflix original movies are terrible. Like the vast majority of them, just to put it out there, at least for me, have been terrible. I love Buster Scruggs, and I think that's the only one that I love. And I think that the vast majority of Netflix originals, I tend to Google it and it's a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and I'm just like, whatever. Where are you guys on that in terms of like the value of original content from these streaming services at the minute?
Didn't somebody? I think I read it on Twitter today. A certain critic. He watched one of Disney's first original. I think they've released an original Christmas film onto the.
Oh, the one with
network.
Kurt Russell.
I think so.
That's brilliant. I love that too. Carry on.
Is that on the Disney Plus?
No, sorry, that's a Netflix thing.
one,
Yeah.
Apparently, they've released a new film onto the Disney Plus service, and somebody watched it instantly and said it was terrible. So you can only pump so much money into it, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee you quality. As that's always been the case with Marvel and Disney.
But I wonder how much money, like in terms of the idea of the originals thing, because I've got down here about like independent creators, and you can maybe get your movie or idea off the ground more with a little Netflix check to the side, as opposed to going to like a bigger studio. And I like the potential for that.
Me too, but when it comes to sort of like the Netflix thing, like you said, they originally, weren't known for their original content, and then they had these great shows like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, at least in their earlier seasons, which, made Netflix originals a sort of signal of, premium, high-quality content. But then, now that they've relied on that so much to shift subscriptions, they've sort of driven it into the ground. Like you said, especially when it comes to the movie side of things, you can almost guarantee that it's going to be an okay watch. It's going to have a lot of big names in. It's going to look really pretty. I'm sure it's going to draw loads and loads of viewers, but it's not something that, would potentially release in cinemas.
I'll make a clear distinction. I meant the movies. Yeah,
yes.
The Netflix TV shows tend to be way better. Love Daredevil and whatever, even though that kind of went off the boil too. But my main point was the movies themselves.
The thing is, though, this is a question to both of you. Actually, I'm not even sure if they have to be good, because the accessibility of streaming is that you can
something
be
in
at
the
home,
background.
you can put something in the background, you can just take a chance on something. Those Adam Sandler movies that are on Netflix are terrible, but millions and millions of people have watched them, and they're a success.
According to Netflix, though, we don't have any metrics to measure that as the average person. So
they're very guarded with their data as well. That's a weird thing. They've just because that is literally just make some hashtag content and just literally just put some stuff online for people to binge.
We're still talking about it, so it's landed somewhere.
If you can make some hashtag content and you can get it trending on Twitter, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. As long as the marketing is good, everyone's going to be interested. Everyone's going to watch it. They might only watch it for half an hour, but it's people talking about Netflix or Disney Plus or any streaming service.
What's that one with Sandra Bullock? The one that was clearly A Quiet Place.
Bird Box.
Bird Box was just very much like, well, A Quiet Place works.
Sorry, I was going to go on a massive tangent there about what the actual monster / aliens look like in the original concept, but they just look like terrifying.
The weird big baby men. Yeah, I think I would have taken that rather than being angry at the wind. That's the bit better than that.
Struggle.
But yeah, I think in terms of just sort of like outlining the general sort of idea of like the landscape going forward, like, are you guys mostly positive on the idea of like the streaming future, or you think you're going to miss something about the way we used to?
I think we're going to
stuff?
start to see these streaming services fall into niches, and I think Netflix is already kind of flying the flag as this independent film backer. Like these brilliant directors, these auteurs can come into Netflix, get loads of money pumped into a passion project. Scorsese and people in that kind of vein are going to get this incredible backing that they probably wouldn't get.
Like Buster Scruggs, like from the Coens,
exactly, from the Coens as well. Whereas Disney still, to me, will feel like this, like you said, they pump so much money into The Mandalorian and these original kind of shows and films. They're still going to be the big dog, and I don't think they're going to take that many risks, let's say, as what Netflix would and what Amazon Prime do. So I think that's where there's going to be a split. There's going to be people going towards Disney going, yeah, I'm going to get a certain kind of product that I enjoy and I want to go to, and probably will sit there feasting on for hours on end. Whereas Amazon and Netflix are going to be more distinct and more. I think the quality, dare I say, it could be a lot better in terms of the films and other TV shows.
Yeah, where do you come down on like the Disney brand? How much do you think the Disney branding will dictate what sort of projects they greenlight?
Quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
They got to keep it.
Like the Irishman would never go on.
Oh,
Disney
absolutely
Plus.
not. It would be
3 hours as well.
Yeah.
It would definitely be sort of, everything in the in-house Disney style. And that's fine because Disney are Disney, and I enjoy that. A lot of people, millions of people across the globe enjoy that. But it's just if that sort of takes over and if it does sort of, price out other potential backers and stuff, that would suck. I'm really conflicted on it. I think they have a great offering of original and, legacy content. I don't like how they're going about sort of, the staggered release, making their products limited on other platforms, but hopefully the competition will breed, the desire for the other companies to make good products again. Like if this makes Netflix originals, even though they are backing, like you said, auteur directors and interesting projects, if this makes those better because they're striving for higher quality, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the state where I'm at the minute is I'm like I said, I'm sort of like subtly or being increasingly aware of how much money I'm putting into streaming services overall, because it's not just movies, services, and TV stuff. It is the gaming side of it as well. And so like there's a lot of like monthly things, but I just think that shift in revenue is something that might sort of come back into the fore. I want to believe there's this big lush future for like, independent creators, but I also wonder about, like even if you sort of apply it to like the MCU or like, modern Disney projects, there is that overall feeling of sheen, of control, of like a studio interference with it. And I guess that's another sort of like wider question is just kind of how much have you noticed that like since Disney have become this massive, they've always been like a big conglomerate, but the last few years they've really been sticking their tendrils in.
Well, it's something like they've made 8.4 billion worldwide this year. Is it for every $4 of revenue or tickets that are sold, they have $1? It's something
ludicrous.
I think they've had like 43% of the entire box office in the US this year, and we've still got stuff like Frozen 2 and Star Wars to come out. That's going to be even bigger towards the end of the year. They've had a ridiculous 12 months, but like you said, I don't want that to become cinema or to become streaming, which it has the potential to do because their brands are so strong. They own so many subsidiaries now, and it's a bit scary.
I don't know if it's because I watch too much nightmare like dystopian fiction, but it's like Black Mirror episodes where it's like everyone just gets like plugged. They sit down, they get plugged into this one streaming service, they get fed this easy access stuff that is like not remotely risky or thought provoking at all, and like it is just the most basic bottom line stuff that'll do the most money. It's the most formulaic, generic stuff possible, and that's just the way that it goes because they know exactly which formulas work. They know exactly how to keep you plugged in and engaged, even when you go home and you're away from the cinema screen. And it's literally what Scorsese was getting at. I don't fully believe that, but I potentially see it as a way to control the message that they're putting forward.
I mean, I'm all here for sort of like creative risks or new projects, original content, and we might get that with Disney. We're only going to get that in the context of established franchises, and it might be cool to see Star Wars on TV, and it might be really well done. But I feel like there needs to be space for the likes of Netflix or Amazon Prime or anyone else to exist. And hopefully we won't get to a point where there are so many different subscriptions and you are paying for so much that it sort of falls in on itself and only the big hitters like Disney are left to sort of survive.
Because that's what I wonder is like in terms of maintaining those monthly subscriptions, how much do they then double down on those formulas and how risks become even less profitable?
Feels bad, man.
It does feel bad. Gareth, where do you come down in final thoughts on the potential future of these things?
I worry and I know it's a kind of it's odd that it has become an age-old argument at this point, but I'm a bit worried for cinema because I'm a cinephile. I love the experience of going to the cinema, sitting down, getting a big box of popcorn, and investing in whatever's going to come on screen. I've worked in cinemas in the past, so I've tended to get free tickets. So I'm fully a punt. I'll go in there and just see what happens with whatever comes in front of me. And I feel like now we have that accessibility and we can do that from home. And so many people the casual fan is choosing to do that from home. Not many people want to go and get in the car and go into the cinema and pay 10, 12 pounds when they can just pay 5, 6 quid just to go and have complete control over whatever they want to watch and switch it off whenever they want, flip onto the next thing, get a full series on hand at any point, or watch some brand new groundbreaking television or films on the flick of it.
Kind of like fundamentally changes what cinema is.
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic for a whole other podcast. I wish we could talk about it all day, but you're completely right in that we look at the box office for this year's cinema offerings, and Disney has dominated, but almost every other studio has disappointed. Things have been coming in under expectations. People just aren't going to the cinema or trying new things. They're going to the brands they like, which for this year, it's been Disney stuff, and that will impact cinema, will impact streaming. Oh, God, are we going into a dystopian future? Your Black Mirror is coming true. I'm really scared.
What if, Josh, what if we're already there? What if this is the dystopian future? But we'll pass it over to you down in the comments below. Let us know what you think of the potential streaming future. And for now, this has been the What Culture Podcast, and I've been your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Josh Brown.
Goodbye.
And Sir Gareth.
Bye-bye.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.